Hey friends, it's Deanna here today, and today I am coming to you working on one of our free patterns. So I am working on a series of doing free patterns, sewing them up together, working over our tutorials and seeing how easy they really are. We will be going over different patterns and different companies and trying out just different free patterns. So today the free pattern I have for you is the tank, curved hem tank from Ellie and Mac. It's a totally free pattern. It's a free download. So you just log on to their website and download it to your cart. It costs you $0, and you can just go ahead and print it out, or if you have a projector, and cut out your fabric and sew it. So we're just gonna go ahead and sew it together and see how easy it can be. So we're gonna go ahead and do it. I already cut out all my fabric and we're ready to roll. Okay, so I'm going to start by grabbing my back and placing my two sides, right sides together. So my back and that's my side, and the long part is my actual back seam. So I'm gonna grab it and put it face up on my board, and then I'm gonna grab my other back seam and paste it right on top of it, right sides together. I'm using this awesome tie-dye fabric because who doesn't need a tie-dye tank? Like, tie-dye tanks are summer. So I am excited about this tank with the tie-dye. So yeah, and I love that it's a free pattern because, you know, who doesn't like free, right? So I'm matching up this raw edges right here, and we're gonna go ahead and sew these together out. I am using my serger, but if you have a sewing machine and not a serger, you can just use your sewing machine. Just make sure you do a stretch stitch all along. Now, if you can tell, the reason why usually most companies do two backs is because see how it's kind of swayed a little bit in, because our backs kind of go in a little bit. So I like this about this pattern, that it has that sway back little adjustment there. All right, so now that it is sewn together, the back is sewn together, I'm going to open it and seam the seam. We always want to seam the seam because then it doesn't look all wavy. So we want to steam it to go the same way all around. Now they ask you to go ahead and hem. Now this pattern has an option for a pocket, but I am not going to be doing the pocket on this top just because I didn't want the look of the pocket. I like the look of the pocket on some, but on this one I just wanted it to be more plain, so that's why I'm not doing the pocket, but I'm going to tell you how they do the pocket in a minute. So when I'm hemming, I'm folding it wrong side up 1/2 inch, and you can measure. I don't really measure my hem anymore. Might not be the best thing, but I don't like to. But you're just rolling it 1/2 inch up. Now, when I'm measuring something that's curved, and I mean hemming something that's curved, and we say, oh, curved hems are really, really hard, but they're not really that hard. You just have to manipulate the fabric. So what I do is I kind of tug on the fabric a little bit as I'm folding it up. I just tug a little bit, and it helps it fold up nice and even. So as you can see, there is my 1/2 inch, and I'm going to hem that. I'm gonna grab my front, which is on the fold. It was cut on the fold, so there is no seam down the front. This is my wrong side, this is my right side. If I was to do a pocket, how cool is this design right here, this tie-dye? This one came from Olga's closet fabrics. So what I'm gonna do is also I'll tell you where I got my fabrics. That way you can go check them out if you'd like to. So here's my pocket pattern piece. So let's say I already cut out my fabric. What I would do is I'm gonna measure 1 inch from the top and fold it down wrong sides together. So this would be the wrong side, fold it down at 1 inch, and on the sides I fold it down 1/4 inch. Okay, so you can see how a whole inch at the top, 1/4 inch on the sides. Then you would top stitch the top and the sides all the way around, and then you could use some fabric tape and use your fabric, pattern guide for your front bodice and place the pocket where it goes. With the fabric tape, you're gonna go ahead and kind of just tape it to the fabric. If you don't have fabric tape, you don't have to use fabric tape. You can just pin it really well, or some people even just use regular glue, like a stick glue or something, and glue it on. And then you're gonna top stitch the sides, down, the bottom, and then the other side. Don't top stitch the top because obviously that's where your hand goes in. So just the bottom, top, side, bottom, and other side, and that will attach your pocket. So that's how we do pockets on this one. But I'm gonna go ahead and hem also my front, and again, 1/2 inch, and I grab my fabric, I can kind of pull it just a little bit so that it stays still. So see how I'm kind of turning it, I'm pulling it. So that now I am not pulling it. I'm just kind of making it go my way nicely. I don't pull and stretch, because if you do that, then you're gonna end up with wavy hems. You don't want wavy hems. Now this is a little bit of a looser hem. So if you wanted to do a straight stitch, I'm gonna tell you just quietly, don't tell everybody else I told you, I might do a straight stitch, just a longer straight stitch. It's not gonna, if it's something that's tight, it won't stretch. But since this is a looser hem, it's kind of a wavy hem, then I think it would be fine. But I am using my cover stitch over here, and so that does a double needle stitch. So if you have a double needle, you can also do that. Or if you don't, you can do a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and hem. All right, so now that they've been hemmed, I'm going to go ahead and steam it. It's always good to steam that hem so it's not wavy, and it helps it to be like better looking. You can tell, you see my hem. I'm gonna steam this one as well. So always steam your seams and your hems. It helps a whole lot. Even if you don't think so, it really does help. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my bodice front and back, and I'm gonna put them right side up on top of each other. And first I'm going to sew those shoulder seams together. Shoulder seam together. I'm just putting those shoulder seams right side together at the raw edge at the top. And then I'm gonna sew the side seams. Tell me what patterns you have been looking into that are free patterns, because we're going to be sewing up all the free patterns. So if you have any recommendations, any patterns that you've seen that are free that you're like, I don't know how I feel about this pattern, I am a little bit scared, let me know which one it is and we'll sew it together. So shoulders and then sides. So these are my side seams, and I'm meeting them up right sides together, and I'm pinning, and I'm going to sew those side seams together. So yeah, just let me know which pattern. I've seen quite a few free patterns, and I'm always kind of leery to try them. So I wanted to go ahead and do this special sew-alongs on YouTube so that we can see how they're actually sewn and see how they actually turn out. Because sometimes you don't really know. I mean, they're free, so you don't really know how they're gonna turn out. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew those shoulders on their side seams, and then we'll come back to do our bands, and we'll be done. All right, so I finished sewing my side. Now, when we do that, when we hem before we actually sew the sides, we have this little tail right here, a serger tail. So the way that we tuck that in, and it kind of actually tells you on the tutorial on the actual pattern page, you will grab this and put it, how I do it is I put it over the seam, that seam right there, and then I do a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine over it to trap it. Just a little zigzag stitch. And I'm gonna show you when I trim all the fabric out of the way. Do you see right there? You can see the zigzag. When you open it, it's tucked in and it's like it was never there. So we're gonna do that for both sides. And then we're going to do our neckband. So this is not banded. I mean, it is banded, but it's not like a regular neckband. It's banded in a different way. So we're gonna grab the actual neckband. We're gonna go ahead and steam it. I'm gonna go ahead and sew it right sides together to close the top, the short end, the short raw edge. And I'm gonna do it for all of them because they are all put on the same way. So we're going to do the same thing for the armbands and the neckband. So I'm gonna show you how you do it on one of them, okay? So all of them will get sewn right sides together, that short raw edge. One, two, and three. Okay. Oh, and the seam allowance for this pattern is 1/4 inch. Now we're gonna grab our bodice and we're gonna find our front and our sides. So here's our shoulder seams. We're gonna go to the front and mark it. How I like to mark my patterns is by doing a little notch where I just clip a tiny little bit of fabric. You won't be able to see it once I sew the band on, but it'll be there in case my pins move or anything like that. Then I'm gonna match my back seam and my front that I just made and go to the sides. And that's how I know where my side seams are. Where my side quarter points are, where the quarters of my shirt are. And what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something else and I totally forgot. All right, so I'm gonna grab my band, my neckband. Again, we're gonna do this for all of them. I'm gonna show you on the neck, okay? I'm gonna grab it and I am going to mark my halves. So here is the front, the back, and going to the front, and I'm gonna mark it. And then I'm gonna match the front and the back and go to the sides, and I'm gonna mark. And that is where you're gonna match up your fabric. So that you're gonna do the same for the armholes. Match up the top and the bottom are already the halves. So you just have to match the front and the bottom seam, shoulder seam and armpit seam, and then go to the sides. And those are your quarters. And then quarter your bands, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our band and we're gonna put it right sides together to the top. So let's see, this is my right side to right side. And pin it on my quarter points. And the band is open. The band is not folded in half. I know sometimes when we do neckbands, we fold the neckband in half. This is not folded in half. This is just an open band. And you're only pinning the right side to the right side. It's not folded. I'm gonna show you in a minute what I mean. Usually when we're doing a neckband, we fold the band in half. We're not folding the band in half. We're just putting it straight down. Here's the raw edge at the bottom. Here's the raw edge at the top. We're pinning that to the top. We're gonna go all the way around and sew that on. All the way around. Make sure you're catching both the neckband and the top when you're sewing it together. What I like to do when I'm sewing my neckbands is I go ahead and put it under my foot and I take a couple stitches. I sewed already a couple stitches so it gets stuck on there. And then I'm gonna grab it on my next quarter point. I'm gonna use my ring finger and my thumb, and I'm gonna hold my fabric right here where it is where I marked the two seams, where I cut, where I notched it a little bit. Then I'm gonna make sure my fabric is even, okay? I'm gonna grab my pointer and my middle finger and I'm gonna grab a little bit higher up in my fabric. And then with this hand, I'm gonna guide my fabric. Okay, and then when I get to that quarter point, I do the same thing at the next quarter point. Grab my fabric, make sure everything's out of the way, everything else. Hold my quarter points right here. Make sure it's even. Hold my next quarter point, my middle of my fabric, and go. And I'm going to keep going just like that. So now my neckband is sewn on, and as you can see, the raw edge is still up top. I just sewed the edge, that top edge. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go in and just steam that seam up. And actually, you can turn this inside out to do it better. Probably would be a good idea. We're gonna steam that seam up, because we're going to come back and encase it into our band. Okay, so once that seam is up, okay, I'm going to fold my fabric, my band, over that seam. So wrong side of my band to the wrong side of my top. So we're just encasing that band in. I'm gonna fold it down, and then I'm gonna come back and show you in a minute what I did. My seam is up. Let me bring it closer. That will probably help. Okay, my seam is facing up. My neckband, this is the back side of my neckband, is gonna go right over that seam. And then we're gonna pin it. Okay. So we're gonna keep going. That's the seam, that's the neckband. This is the wrong side of my fabric, and it's gonna go right over. And we're gonna top stitch that to encase the seam on this side. You see that? You're gonna top stitch right there. I'm gonna keep going and encasing that seam. All right, now my seam is encased. And see, the front looks just like that. Okay, now if you wanted the band to be thinner, you will move this down farther down, all the way down, and then there's the thinner neckband. So it really is up to you how far down you want to go. Then you would just trim that after you're done. So we're gonna go ahead and top stitch our neckband all the way around. Top stitch all the way around, catching the back of it and the front, and encasing that seam. I'm going to pull mine down a little bit because I think I wanted a smaller neck. So I'm gonna pull it down just a little bit over that seam. And then I'm gonna go back to my cover stitch, and I'm gonna top stitch. You can top stitch with I would top stitch with a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine, or a double needle, or if you have a cover stitch, that would work just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and sew top stitch all the way around to our neckband. So now I have top stitched all around, and once you have top stitched all around, you will open back up, and there might be a little bit of fabric left on your back side, so you're gonna go through really carefully, and these are not the scissors to use for this. I'll have to use the other scissors and finish up. I have little scissors. Very carefully that you don't cut your fabric or your thread. You can cut the rest of that fabric that was left over, the fabric that was left over after you top stitched. So they are basically done. After you finish trimming that, all you gotta do is do the same thing that you did for the neckband to the armbands. So go ahead and attach right sides together, attach that band, and then fold it and top stitch. And you're gonna do the same for both armbands, and you will be done with this cute tank. How cute is this? Very, very cute, very, very simple, easy and quick to make. And then you have a cute little tank for the summertime. And it's also really cute if you make it more dressy and you can wear it under a cardigan or a jacket for layer piece. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I finished the pattern. It's all sewn up and I'm wearing it right now because I wanted to show you all. I love it. I simply love it. I love the neckline. I love the height of the neckline. It's not super low, but it's not super high. It's just pretty perfect. I love the look of the band. So it kind of looks like a very professional look on the band. I love the height of the arm. It doesn't go, it's not constricting, but it's also high enough that you don't see anything. It doesn't show. And then the width of the band at the top, it's just perfect for fitting any kind of straps. I love that. I love the curved hem. I love the fact that it splits, and I love the curved at the bottom, how it curves. It looks really super cute. Let me back up so you can see the whole thing. It's really super cute. I love it. I thought the construction was actually pretty straightforward. The instructions were great. But the only thing I did have a little bit of mishap with was top stitching the band. As you can tell, I went a little whoop right there. But really, if you were doing a zigzag on your sewing machine, you probably wouldn't show as much. And if you were to like really pin it and slow down, then it would be better. Like my neckline was better because I took my time, I pinned it, and I went slowly. On my armbands, I was just whoop, flying through. So that was probably my bad. So that was the only thing. Everything else is pretty great. I love this fabric with it. I love the way that it flows. It's not too tight, but it's not super big. I love that it kind of shapes a little bit, so it gives you a little bit of shape. It worked out great. So I'm happy with this free pattern. I loved it and I recommend it 100%. And this fabric came from Olga's Closet. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but I loved it as well. I love the feel and the look that it gives it. That's all I have for you all today. Just remember to subscribe and comment below so that you never miss on any of our other sewing tutorials. Let me know if there's any free patterns out there that you want me to try so I can tell you what I think about them and we can sew them together. Comment, like, share, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.